Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you for checking in today. I want to introduce someone that you probably don't know. And I have to say, that is a little frustrating because this topic is so near and dear to my heart. And it is something that has affected our family personally on so many different levels with so many different children. So I have invited on today Dr. Rebecca Bevans, and we are going to talk about the dangers of artificial dyes and exactly what all they do to you and how they can affect you, and especially your children. So, Dr. Bevans, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Please tell us about yourself and then tell us your story, and then we will go from there.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. After living through all of this, it's become a passion. So I have a master's degree in child development, and I have a PhD in cognitive neuroscience, which is pretty much how the brain interprets the information, perception, how we see the world around us, which has a lot to do with our internal states. So not only our moods, but anxiety levels, depression, hormone levels, neurotransmitter imbalances. Okay, so when the body is out of balance, it affects the way that we perceive the world. So anyway, I stumbled across this artificial dye issue when I had a kiddo who I have my kiddo still, but when my kiddo was 7, he was always very rambunctious. Actually, let me start with this. When I nursed him for quite a while, and all of the food he ate, I made. Okay, so he had all natural foods. He had things that we cooked probably for the first year and a half to 2 years of his life. He didn't really eat anything that wasn't, made by us. And then, of course, being a kid, he got introduced to, the cupcakes and the things in his environment, the candies and stuff at school and at parties. And I didn't think anything of it until he was always rambunctious. We used to call him our crazed little lunatic monkey on crack, because he was so full of energy. He couldn't sit still. Very bright, very aware, articulate. Started talking when he was about 8 months old when he started talking. Yeah. He was very active in his environment, and I just thought that was who he was. So by second grade, his first grade teacher was fantastic, worked with him. Second grade was a little rough. And so by second grade, we started to realize that there were some issues. He wasn't concentrating on his homework. It would take hours for him to do a simple paper. And so I asked him one day, Bud, what's going on? Can you just please focus? And he said, I can't focus, Mom, my brain's buzzing. It's like, okay, neuroscience degree, pretty sure brains aren't supposed to buzz. It's like the one thing you kind of understand is brains don't buzz. And so I started to do some research, and nowhere can I find anything until I found a blog by a teenager who had described her reactions to Red 40. And she said that her brain would buzz. So it's like, okay, here's a place to start. So I looked up the research on dyes, which are few and far between. Actually, nothing's been done in 35, 40 years here in this country. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll just pull him off red. Red was his favorite color of food. So let's pull him off red. So we pulled him off red over winter break, and noticed quickly that the brain buzzing stopped. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, it didn't occur to me that the other colors might have an effect, but we just did red. So then we let him continue to eat other stuff. And so red candies he couldn't have, so he switched to yellow, lemon, pineapple. And the behaviors started to kind of ramp up. He started to get behaviors very similar to oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder. He would have meltdowns. He would freak out. I would just, hey, we're going to eat dinner. Can you turn off the TV? And he would just absolutely melt down, and he would shred at his clothes, and he would just be so frustrated and scratch himself or swing on me. And this is not the sweet kid that he is. So that summer we went to Hawaii, and we were doing the shaved ice with that colored syrup 1 to 2 times a day. because we're in Hawaii, right? So by the time we got home, I mean, the behavior started to ramp up in Hawaii, but by the time we got home, he was having 4 meltdowns a day. And it was just too much. And that's when he started to beg to die. He just wanted to die. He would be in a full rage and just sobbing. And I'd ask him why. And he would say, I don't know. And then he would beg for me to get him a knife so that he could kill himself because he didn't want to live anymore. And it wasn't that he didn't want to live. He didn't want to live like that. And I think that we could all understand that for a 7-year-old who has these overwhelming psychotic episodes, that it would be very difficult to live like that. And so that's when I said, all right, if he keeps going this way, by the time he's a teenager, we'll lose him. So I kind of did some more research and I found some more stuff on yellow causes agitation, and okay, all right, there's like one article on yellow. So, okay, fine, let's pull it. Let's pull all dyes from his diet. And so we pulled everything, cold turkey, we went through the entire house. There were dyes in everything. And we had already pulled out like high fructose corn syrup, like when he was 3. But there was blue in some salad dressings. I mean, there was stuff everywhere. So we pulled it from him and he crashed. He was detoxing so bad. It looked like an addict coming off of meth. He slept. He would sleep all night and then he would come out and sleep on the couch, and he had no stamina. He had no strength. All he wanted was milk and cheese, which was very interesting. Which, on a side note, when another friend of mine ended up pulling her kid off dyes, the school said that she wasn't allowed to go back to school unless she was medicated. She was really bad. She wanted yogurt and milk is all she wanted. So I don't know.
There's got to be something to it.
There's got to be something there, but it was it was just interesting. And my kiddo was really skinny and then couldn't gain weight. I mean, he gained some weight, but he didn't gain a lot. And you could see his ribs through his shirt. And then after, his whole metabolism crashed and he gained like 6 pounds in 6 weeks, which is what he gained like the whole year prior or 2 years prior. So it was affecting his metabolism. It was affecting everything. And it took a good 3 months for him to be able to go play with the neighborhood kids without running out of steam in 10 minutes. And it took about 6 months for him to reincorporate. It's like being high for years. So he lost these years of emotional development and learning the little things, the soft skills that we learn as we grow. And so it took him a little while to catch up on that, but it was an amazing transformation. And then over the years, we either test on purpose, right? So it's summer. All right, let's see what green does. And that was his fault. He wanted green tea ice cream at a Thai restaurant. And I was like, well, shoot, it's Friday. I'm game. Let's see what happens. Right. And he was manic by the time we got home. It was insane. He was just like, hey, mom, want to play catch? Blah, 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 blah. We were just standing there like, oh my God. So the next day when it came out and he crashed hard. He was high and then crashed. So I was like, hey, you gonna eat green again? No. So we've tested blue a few times. And it didn't work out very well and made him cranky and grumpy. And then we accidentally test yellow. I say accidentally because there'll be days where, he was having a problem he was in theater and he was having a problem at school. He was having problems at home and having problems at theater. And that's weird, to just have all of that going on. So I'm like, okay, what are you eating? Oh, what are we doing? And I was getting him these bagels from the grocery store. He was eating them like every day, one a day. And there were egg bagels. And I looked at them like, yeah, these have a yellow tint to them. So I called up the grocery store and she went and looked. She goes, yeah, they have yellow 5 in them. I'm like, oh, okay. So pull them and he goes back to normal yellow takes sometimes up to 5 days. It just depends. But, so we've had the accidental, vacations, man, we travel. We love to travel. And that's when he gets dosed the most, if it's going to happen, because we have our places that we eat here. We have our foods here. But when you're traveling, you got to, yeah. And you can ask all the questions in the world in a restaurant, but there's people that aren't going to understand what you're talking about. And they're just going to come back and go, oh yeah, it's fine. It's not fine. Or I'm not paying attention. I spray them down with my sunblock, and he was having a problem for a couple of days. Thankfully, it was at the end of our vacation. And then we come home and we live near Tahoe. So we went back up to Tahoe and I sprayed him down again, and he went in the water, and all of a sudden the water had this blue shimmer to it and this yellow red shimmer to it. And he comes running back and was like, what's in the sunblock? Like, oh, blue, red, and yellow. Okay. Well, that's where that came from the other day. So, you feel like a jerk parent, and that's the parent of the year award for a minute, but you just don't think about what it's in. I mean, like, we've cleared out the toothpastes and the mouthwash. Try to find a mouthwash without alcohol for a kid and without dyes in it. There are a couple, and they're really good. I should send you links for those.
Please do.
Yeah, they're great. And then medications, thank goodness he's a super healthy kid now. Before, when he was eating dyes, he was sick a lot. And there was a lot of things going on with him, and allergies. And just, he was just miserable. I was 9 ear infections in 10 months before they put the tubes in. His body was just so inflamed and reacting. And the medications that they give him, I had to go rounds and rounds just the other day trying to get an antibiotic that doesn't have a dye in it. Can't take antivirals because they have dyes in them. I mean, it's insane what it's in and where it creeps up in, and the stuff that you just don't expect. And it's that stuff that'll get you. You can eat as clean as you want and then go take an allergy pill. Mm-hmm. Or an antacid, or other, like an antibiotic if you get sick, and there you go. And he had to go to the emergency room, and the doctor comes out, or the nurse comes out with Tylenol, and it's like fire engine red. I'm like, oh no. I have stuff in my purse. I will go get that. And of course they treat me like I'm just some crazy mom, but it's like, oh no. You give him that, and I'm keeping him here with you. And you can, hang out with him for 2 days.
We say the exact same thing when it comes to sugar or anything like bright blue donuts. I'm like, oh, if you want to keep him for a week, that's fine. Otherwise, don't even think about it.
Yeah, he's yours.
Exactly.
So I have to explain to him. He has psychotic episodes, and they're like, oh, so once you say that, then they take it a little bit more seriously. It's not a rash. No, we're talking full blown reactions. And so, yeah, it's just the weird stuff. One of his friends wrote on him with a pen. I'm like, oh no, you can't have Sharpie pens on you. Oh, this is when he was younger. I was like, oh crap, here we go. All right. And that was a fun couple days. And so we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what each dye does for him. And came up with a list of how yellows, are more of the the oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, angry outbursts, uncontrolled emotional reactions, psychotic effects. Red is more like the ADHD type behaviors. Green is manic. Mania is fun. I mean, he's fun, but it's not good for him. And then blue is just he gets tired and grumpy and I mean, it's not a disorder, but he's still not comfortable. Right. So it's just something to avoid. So a couple years ago, I don't know how many years now, October 2019, because it was right before the pandemic, we went down to Sacramento because the Office of Health Hazard Assessment in California was doing an assessment on artificial food dyes. One of the legislators brought it to them and said, hey, there are risks to children, and we need to investigate this. So they held a symposium and brought researchers from all around the world. And the FDA was there. Um, Big Candy was there. Coca-Cola was there. And most everyone in the room had an MD or PhD. Researchers studying dyes in medications and things like that. The same researcher, she went to, I can't remember names right now, but she went to different stores and bought cough syrup, found that if a child takes a normal dose of cough syrup 3 times a day, like it said, they have exceeded the daily allowable limit of artificial dyes in one day. And
if you're sick, you're going to take as much cough
right.
syrup as you can, as often as you can. And now you're officially over your recommended daily allowance.
Right. Just from that. And that's not counting the soda or the Fruit Loops or anything else that they've happened to eat. The other thing too is this really affects our minority populations and our low socioeconomic populations the hardest, because dyes are found more in children's foods that are targeted towards low socioeconomic status families, being cheap foods. And so these kids are affected more than anyone, affected because of the amount that they're eating every day. They're eating the amounts that they're eating far exceeds the FDA recommended daily allowance. So at the symposium, we met researchers who research ADHD and who they want to do some dye research, but who's going to give them millions of dollars? The government is not funding this type of research. The FDA won't fund this type of research. The FDA's attitude is, well, it doesn't harm neurons, therefore it's fine. Yeah. And rat neurons, by the way, not even humans. And they're not, and the tests that they're doing with rats don't even reflect tests that you would do with children. So that was a discussion that was there. And so we were there for a couple of days. What was amazing was my kid was the only one there who actually can tell you what it's like to be like this. And so he actually did stand up. He got really kind of irritated when one of the researchers said, well, we need medications or we need dyes and medications so people can tell what they're taking. And he stood up and was very clear and adamant about how that really hurts a lot of people, because we can't take those medications now. And you're going to give an ADHD medication to a child who's having problems and you've got dyes in it. Well,
you just exacerbated the problem.
Right. It's like giving, someone with a peanut allergy peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, yeah. So a couple of the researchers, what's Joel's last name? Oh, me and names.
Well, you'll message me and I'll pop it up on the screen.
Anyway,
it'll be all good.
Yeah. He's awesome. We talked for a while and I talked with one of the researchers who was doing research back in the UK. And he was doing a design where they would give them either a natural or artificial dye on Monday, and then test them throughout the week, and then do it again the next Monday. And they did that for 6 weeks for this group. So I told him, well, that's really good because it takes 5 days for yellow to get out of the system. And he was like, what? Like, it never occurred to them that if you eat it every day, you're compounding the effects, which is what happened to my son. If he ate yellow once, he's not suicidal, but if he eats it every single day for a month, now we have this massive compound effect, and he's reacting. Nor has anyone ever looked at each individual dyes. So we got to share our experience with that. And then Joel told me that, a couple of them told me that these kids with these dye reactions, about 50% of them will grow out of it at puberty. Mm-hmm. But that means 50% don't, and turn into adults who have dye reactions and don't know it.
Like and depression those and anxiety.
Bingo. Depression, anxiety, anger issues, anger outbursts, oppositional defiant disorder, which is not given to adults. It's now called antisocial personality disorder, lack of empathy, lack of self-control, abuse. I wonder how many of the mass shooters that we have could be reacting to the Cheetos that they eat every day or something else that they're eating every day. Like it's it's not something that just affects small children and a few of them. It actually affects a lot more than when we think, but we don't know. If someone wants to give us $5 million, I can have a study based on the UK. I have researchers from the UK and all around this country who are ready to jump on it and who will replicate the UK study, which is actually a really good study. Mm-hmm. Replicate it here so they have some dyes that we don't use here that they use there. Mm-hmm. And so that's why the FDA was like, well, we can't use that research because So anyway, we need more research. I would love to get my kid in a PET scan, off dyes, on dyes, and show the difference in his brain activity, because he goes from a normal activity to his brain's on fire. It won't stop running. The anxiety level just ramps up. The racing thoughts. I said, well, what kind of thoughts? He's like, everything you could possibly think of has just run through my head. And we don't understand that that's affecting adults too. Mm-hmm. We have a massive epidemic of depression and anxiety, and there's many reasons for that, but this could be one piece. So anyone who's having these issues probably should look at their diet. I mean, that's.
Oh yeah. And that's me. Like I healed my anxiety and my depression, which, I don't know any other way to say it, when I changed my diet, but mm-hmm. there are still things that will affect me, and artificial dyes is absolutely one of them. So I'm one of those 50% who I didn't outgrow it. And then we had our own little run-in with Noah and his allergy medications and blue one. He ended up socking his sister in the stomach.
Yeah.
Because she said, well, if you don't want to play, that's fine. We're going to go ahead and play without you. You don't have to keep playing. You're welcome to, you can stop. And it's like, it took us, I don't know, about 15 minutes to put it together. And that's when I remembered. I was like, oh no. I am now doing this episode. My sweet husband has been after me for months and to do this. And I'm just like, you know what? It's not quite, I'm not ready yet. I don't know enough. And so finally I was like, forget it. Now I'm reaching out to Rebecca, and we're going to talk with the expert on this, because people need to understand, people in my space, especially, yes, the food that we eat does tend to affect us very mm-hmm. severely, mm-hmm. but it's so much more than that. Like, for mm-hmm. example, did you know that Dawn dish soap has 3 different artificial dyes in it to make it that beautiful blue color? And yes, it works wonderfully on your dishes and all the greasy food that us carnivores like to eat. Mm-hmm. But what is it doing when it seeps into your skin?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There has been research done with sunblock, that whatever you put on your skin, the active ingredients in sunblock shows up in your blood within 24 hours. So that tells me whatever we put on our skin could very well end up in our blood within 24 hours. So if you put stuff on your skin with dyes in it, it can seep into your body. I mean, your skin is a very large organ that absorbs what it puts on, like what it touches. And so, yeah, it will absolutely affect. We had, after we had him clean, he was in theater and he was the gatekeeper of Oz. So we dyed his hair green and painted his nails green. And that was a problem. By the end of that production, we recognized what was happening, but we couldn't stop. Just the dye on his scalp alone. So, okay, you got to hold it together, bud, until this production is over. And we kind of had him detox off of that, but that was worse because it was sitting on his skin. It was sitting in his skin for days. I have a friend who's celiac, same thing. She used a hair dye that had wheat in it. Mm-hmm. My mom's celiac. I am borderline, so I don't do wheat. And I sometimes question, do I really react to wheat? Yeah, I'm having a problem with my scalp, and I had a new shampoo, and I went and looked. Sure enough, in the shampoo, wheat protein. Oh,
wheat protein.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's why I have sores on my scalp. Wonderful. Cool. So dyes are the same thing. I mean, you can eat as cleanly as possible, But if you're taking an allergy medication, or if you're using a mouthwash that has blue in it, sublingual, bam, straight into your system. Going to the dentist. I am so grateful that we have a wonderful pediatric dentist in this town who didn't think I was crazy, who their fluoride treatments are foam that have no color in them. And they polish his teeth with pumice. I'm like, sorry, bud, tastes gross, but it's got no dyes in it. And so they're wonderful about that. But the dentist we had before for him, they're pulling out all these mouthwashes with color, or they want you to chew those blue tablets so you can see where you're brushing. I was like, oh, no, he cannot do those. Please, no. Markers on your hands. He was just last year. They were screen printing t-shirts for the club that he's in. Yeah. So, one of the on camp, I teach at Western Nevada College, and my kiddo has been attending school there since after 8th grade. He went from 8th grade to college. And so one of the teachers there she does screen printing stuff. She does all sorts of fun things. And so these kids got together in their club and they were screen printing these shirts. Again, I didn't think anything of it. And he starts acting just odd for him. I was like, what is like when he starts arguing with me about everything, I know there's a problem. Like that's my indication to me is when everything's an argument. And we chalk it up to being teenagers, but this is not being a teenager. This is a problem. And so he looks at his hands and he's got the yellow all around and underneath his nails and his nail beds from the paint. I was like, oh crap. All right. Get that off of there as much as you possibly can. And we're just going to have to buckle up and deal with this for the next 5 days.
For another almost week. Yeah.
A week. So yeah, it is. It's the little things like that get us now. It's not the foods that he eats. I was telling you about TBHQ. So we found out because something still, we had everything dialed in, no dyes in the house, no, nothing, no soaps. All of our soaps are clothing, any fabric softeners, our dish soap. We ended up going to Costco and getting the all natural plant-based one because there's no dyes in that. So that one, and everything, all of his toothpaste, all of, he was using the doTERRA toothpaste. He was using this mouthwash that has no dyes in it. But there's still days where there's problems. It's like, okay, what? So I reached out to one of the lead scientists over at the Center for the Science and Public Interest. And so she mentioned there's some other additives that seem to affect these kids. So it's BHT, BHA, and TBHQ.
And that's in like, there's like pepperoni and salami and all kinds of processed deli meats that have all of those things in them.
They're fat stabilizers.
Oh, well, there you go. That explains it.
Yeah. Fry oil for anyone who does eat fried foods, and chips and cereal and just all over the place. Right. So
everywhere.
Gum. Yeah. So we tried out, we tested we tested first the BHA and BHT and they did not seem to bother him. Okay, cool. Yay. But the TBHQ was just like yellow and it was pretty bad. So he has to avoid TBHQ as well. And I keep thinking he's going to, I was hoping he was going to grow out of it. He's 6'1", 220. And the same amount that affected him when he was 100 pounds affects him now. So no.
He's in my 50%. Welcome to the club, bud.
Yeah. So, and we'll probably still continue to test things here and there, but just because like we're that kind of family now, let's just try this. Why not? It's usually his choice now, but yeah, it's the little stuff like that we come across. I wrote with a blue Sharpie on one of the things that was going in the freezer and he grabbed it too soon and had blue Sharpie on his hand. I was like, oh. And you can't get that off.
Mm-mm.
So
No,
So
I've heard sunblock takes it off, but please don't use the one that has other
no,
the other
no,
types.
no, I threw all those out. We have, oh my gosh, I don't need this. I don't need this here if this is going to have, be a problem. And yeah, bug spray. We have to be super careful. We use the all natural bug spray because if it gets on his skin and it gets into his system, deodorant. Why? Tell me why men's deodorant has to be bright blue.
It goes in your armpit.
Why?
It doesn't
Women's
matter.
Deodorant, I don't get it. I really don't. Just make a clear, leave
it clear, leave it pasty white. I don't care why. It doesn't matter.
Women's aren't dyed. Men's are.
Maybe that's why men are so much more aggressive. I mean, and I know it's affecting hormones. I mean,
oh yeah. So one of the researchers that I was talking to works for the FDA, works for the government. He's an endocrinologist and a pediatric endocrinologist, and his life's work is endocrine disruptors. And so I got chapter and verse on all the different endocrine disruptors. And he thinks that this falls into the category of an endocrine disruptor.
I completely agree.
I do too. And now, unfortunately, there's no studies to test this. And again, we go back to this, money issue of the government. They fund studies all over the place, but not this.
No, because you prove to them that all of these artificial dyes are detrimental to people, then they lose so much money in the products that they're making. It's the same thing. It's why they don't do the studies on sugar.
Right, exactly. So going back to the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, they took a year and gathered all the information that we gave them, that all the researchers and scientists gave them, and concluded in a 300-page document, which I will get you the link to as well.
Oh, yes.
That artificial food dyes do appear to cause problems in children. And so that recommendation, we were going to push the legislature to start passing some bills, but it was kind of too late. And so everyone decided to wait and to hold back. There was a bill presented. They pulled it. One of the SB bills. They pulled it, and they're going to reintroduce it next legislative session. And they're supposed to be meeting with a bunch of legislators to talk to them about this, because if California, at a minimum, causes warning labels to be placed on all foods with dyes, and at a maximum bans all food dyes in California, the rest of the country will have to follow. Mm-hmm. And I will be very grateful for that. So we're all keeping an eye on that, because that's a really huge thing. I mean, there's companies that are pulling dyes out. Baskin Robbins has pulled all the artificial colors out of all of their ice cream.
Yeah, on their own, because they've realized, especially if you have your own personal run-in with it, you become passionate about something and you're like, no, you need to understand this is, I don't care if you are my worst enemy. I do not wish this upon you. I'm going to remove this.
Well, and the kids, I don't want to see any more kids suffer. I'll see these YouTube videos of these children throwing huge fits in the back seat, and people are like, oh, they need to be spanked, and they need, and they just, parents need to get control of that child. And all I think of is my heart is breaking, because they're probably having a dye reaction and people don't even realize it. I mean, I know a lot of kids don't react and a lot of adults don't, but what about all of those that do? And it looks like those kids throwing a horrible fit in the back seat over nothing, and the meltdowns, and kids don't get that emotional for no reason. So how can we help all of these kids when parents don't know? I didn't know. I am pretty educated. I'm more educated than most people. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. And how are we supposed to know this when the FDA is telling us it's okay, or when these companies are telling us it's okay, or it's everywhere? So what are we supposed to do? No one ever suggested that it might not be a good idea to ingest these food colors. They're petroleum based.
Petroleum based. There we go.
Thank you. If I can even talk. They're based on oil.
Yeah.
They're awful. They contain a benzene ring. Mm-hmm. And some of them look very similar to parts of the structures of meth.
Mm-hmm.
Chemically, they're not healthy. And the UK does just fine without them.
Oh yeah. And how many other countries are they banned in?
Oh, at least 13, 14 last I checked.
As I say, and then we're over here still dabbling in the rainbow. And it's like,
Oh, taste the rainbow. Come on. It's
right. Oh my gosh. You're tasting and living, and it's ridiculous.
my son started singing, my son and my husband, Frosted Lucky Charms. They're manically depressive.
No.
Yeah. You know, just the amount of stuff besides foods that it shows up in that you just don't think about. I've met a lot of parents over the years after doing our talk and I had a parent who we're friends now. How can you not be?
Uh-huh.
She messaged me letting me know that our talk saved her 4-year-old's life.
Oh.
They were getting ready to put her on antipsychotics.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So instead of walking around talking about killing herself, she was walking around talking about killing her family.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that she had they went to Disneyland. It was awful, horrible. And the poor little girl was just holding the family hostage because everyone was just so afraid of what she was going to do next. And someone showed her my video, and she removed dyes, and she was a whole different girl.
Mm-hmm.
And she sent me a picture. It was the middle of summer. She was wearing long sleeve and boots. And she goes, "You don't understand. This kid didn't like clothes because it hurt her skin."
Yep. No, that's my Levi. He was at the age of 3 diagnosed with severe ADHD and ADD, and at the age of 5 diagnosed with opposition defiant disorder. And they really saw him moving into conduct disorder. I mean, he would threaten me. He would threaten himself. He would talk about wanting to kill himself. We had him medicated. We actually had a car seat, a 5-point kids car seat in the house, strapped to a giant chair, so that when he was in the middle of one of his throws and we could not control him, we could buckle him into it so that at least he wouldn't hurt anyone else.
Poor kiddo.
And of course, I didn't know anything about diet then. I didn't know anything about artificial colors, artificial flavors, all of these things that are literally affecting us down to our core. And it's so frustrating to me that people don't know, and so I watch people in my sphere, and everyone always thinks that I'm judging them if they don't eat the way that I eat. And it's like, no, it's not that I'm judging you. It's that I really think that it might be able to help on some level. And if you would just give it 30 days to try, you might see a huge difference. And it's the same thing with this. I'm not judging you because your kid uses a blue mouthwash.
Right.
I'm thinking, how much better could things get if your kid didn't use the blue mouthwash?
Right.
Right. And or eat the pickles with the yellow 5 in them.
Oh my God, pickles.
Why? It's everywhere. Although I think one of the ones we used to get, they switched over to turmeric. So they finally at least did that.
Is it Glassic?
Or Vlasic?
Vlasic, yeah. I think Vlasic might have. There's a couple. We have Trader Joe's here, which is kind of like Aldi's, and we go there to buy stuff. But yeah, I can look. It's a skill I've acquired now. I can look at marshmallows and go, that one has blue in it. Oh, yes. I can look at pickles and go, like, that's yellow. I've been wrong a couple times. It's turmeric. I'm like, ooh, all right, that's pretty bright, but all right.
That's a lot of turmeric. That's what that is.
Right. I'm like, okay, but it's easy to tell now once you have that keen eye of, if I give this to my child, it's going to hurt them. But yeah, why put dye?
I know. And I know that it triggers parts of our brains to tell us it's more beautiful. It's more desirable. It's like the fruit in nature. They now coat that in wax and they will use colors on that too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Orange 3 in Florida only, although they haven't used it in many years, but it was approved to be on the outside of orange peels in Florida only for whatever reason. California manufacturing did not allow it. But like I said, they haven't done it in years because I was like, oh, great. You can't drink Florida orange juice now. And so I researched it, and they haven't been using it for a really long time, which is good. But yeah, let's coat everything and make it super bright. And that's the problem, is that Americans are so conditioned for their shiny stuff that food is included. So in Europe, things aren't as bright and they're not as colorful, except, natural foods. But and meats here too, by the way. You have to ask your butcher if they're putting anything in the ground beef, or they're coating any of the steaks and things too, because some can use red in that.
Okay. Oh
So,
my gosh. I think you just gave me an epiphany.
oh,
Because, oh my gosh. So we just had a scare not long ago, and I'm not even entirely sure that it's over either. We got a new cow. We buy a whole cow every couple of months because we eat so much meat. So we bought from a different person, different processing plant, and we bought a Holstein. The breed that we bought was a Holstein.
mm-hmm.
And I, at the same time, got a very suspicious tick bite. I live in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't sure because it got this big old red ring around it. It wasn't the classic bullseye, but it was angry enough. And then I was covered head to toe in hives. First, they were red, and then they were white the next day. I ate that cow for 3 days straight, and pretty much only that cow. That's all I was eating. I just really was craving beef. So I was just eating tons of beef. Well, we weren't sure if it was the tick bite or if it was the new cow. So my husband was eating it as well. His eyes got really, 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 really itchy, and they were just bloodshot, and he couldn't stop, and watering constantly. Now, I haven't been sick. I haven't had hives in like a decade. I couldn't stop itching. And so we thought, okay, it must be the cow. And so, of course, I called. I was like, did you give them antibiotics? Did you give them hormones? Did you put MSG on it? What did you do? Oh, no, nothing like that. It's got to be something in that stinking cow.
Yeah.
In that meat. I did not know. So I'm going to have to call him and very specifically ask, so did you put any red dye 40 on it?
Yeah. What do you process it? What chemicals do you process the meat with? What washes do you use? We got really friendly with our butcher here in town and ask lots of questions when it comes to, because I had heard about the red being used in some ground beef. That's why I won't buy any ground beef that I don't know where it has come from. Like, we can't get packet, or unless it's organic, again, because you don't use dyes in organic. So going back to being safer with organic, safer. But yeah, so that's how I found that one out. So yeah, it could be that they're using something on that meat in order to process it, or something they're using in the facility that's getting on there. You understand it's cross-contamination. So
it's dog food now.
Oh,
I've got 2 German shepherds that are raw fed, and they love it. So they can have it. I'm just going to hope that whatever it is doesn't seem to start affecting them.
Yeah. 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 And it's like you said, it's the weirdest little things. But once you're clean of those things, you'll notice when you get in contact with something. So yeah, I can't do wheat. So we have to be super careful. And when I end up getting in contact with something, even in somewhere that they're like, oh no, it's fine. I bought my mom some cereal that was gluten-free, certified. Yeah, no, it was not. She's like super celiac. Like, I should get her a cape. When they finally found out that she was celiac, she was 60, and it was like a switch had flipped. She had an accident, and then she had an illness, and that was what they think caused her to go from gluten intolerant to celiac. And it took them 7 years to figure out she was celiac. And when they tested her, she wasn't even eating any wheat, and she still tested over 100 on the antibody test, and anything over 10 is celiac. So she's so sensitive. So if something's going to react with her now, and like my kid, any amount of dyes, if he ate anything, he will have a reaction. So one of the researchers said, well, he's allergic. He's not. Dye reactive is what we've been calling him. He's like, I would say he's allergic to that. So he's just extreme. So for us, it was, I don't want to say easier for us to see it because he is extreme. There are a lot of kids that might be mildly dye reactive. So like, I remember being mildly gluten intolerant, and I would convince myself it wasn't the wheat, it was something else, right? Because I didn't want to give up my bread, my sourdough. So yeah, it was easier for me to try to convince myself of something else. It's not you, there's no question. But how many kids do have this mild underlying, mild to moderate reaction that we just assume it's their personality? Oh, they're just like that. Or they're a teenager, they're going to be moody and depressed and talk back and be argumentative. You know, I'll tell you, I have a 16-year-old who's just delightful, and I know I'm lucky, and we have our moments. But it's not because he's having a reaction. And so we dismiss a lot of these behaviors as being something else. And until you clean everything down, and then you still see these things, like we had no dyes at all. And then still we were having like, why are you reacting like yellow? And I would look and they're like, no yellow, no yellow, no yellow. Oh, TBHQ. Yeah. That I can find, but not the yellow. And then how about this? How about that? You know, so it's being very investigative, I guess.
You got to give it 30 days. I mean, 30 days is not going to kill anybody of anything. It won't. You can put all of your products in the cupboard.
Yeah.
Go back to them, because then you will know for sure. 30 days. That is all you need. I mean, honestly, you probably need less than that, but I say just
2 weeks. I say 2 weeks, you'll know in a week, but 2 weeks. 2 weeks is enough to know if you're reacting to dyes. Just 2 weeks, but 30 days is always a good one to go, because if kids are eating a lot of dyes and you pull it cold turkey, you're taking their drug away, they crash. And then you need that recovery time for them to kind of come back to see, but you will see a crash within 2 weeks, and then you'll see who they really are within a month if it's affecting them. And it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't, there's no negative side effects, except they might be grumpy that they can't have something that they want that has a color in it. You, like you said, you just put all your products away, take all of whatever it is they're that isn't, even if it's not in their diet, you pull toothpastes and mouthwash and all that, and you find other options, shampoo, conditioner, gosh, what else?
I was going to say, I would think makeup.
All
of the soaps that whenever I do this, I also suggest like the scented candles. Those are also endocrine disruptors. I'm like, switch over to essential oils.
Yep.
Get rid of all of those, anything chemicals. And I always tell people, if you can smell it, it is doing something to your brain. You need to understand that. And so I had an epiphany the other day. I'm cooking for deer hunters right now because it's deer season and there's a lodge up the road. So I cook for them, and I cook standard American diet. I don't cook special or anything, but I brought vegetable oil into the house, which I do not ever use anymore. And all of a sudden I started getting really, really, really grumpy, like really snippy with the kids, short tempered. And I'm going, what is going on? This is insane. What am I getting exposed to? And then I realized I am frying in the vegetable oil. And I went, the smell is so off-putting. And I went, if I can smell it, it is affecting my brain. And I went, dag nabbit. So I've gone, okay, fine. Guess what? They get my bacon grease now and the beef tallow, because it's not worth it for me to fry in that vegetable oil anymore. And I even tried putting a mask on. I could still smell it right through the mask. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you're getting it on your hands.
Oh, and I was even wearing gloves. I was like, nope, I will wear gloves. But it was still getting into me. And I went, nope, it's not worth it.
We got rid of all of our candles. I have a huge box of essential oils that we mix and match and use for all sorts of things. And same thing. I don't want my kid inhaling anything that could be causing a reaction. So, and some of the candles have colors in them. I don't know if they're going to be inhaling that or not. I'm going to guess probably something. Yeah. So yeah, so we got rid of, and all of our cleaning products are all natural cleaning products, because again, I can't have him touching things that have chemicals in them that can cause him to have a reaction. So
we
we
have
have
laundry detergent,
Mhm.
that beautiful blue laundry detergent. You can't tell me that all washed out.
No, all those Tide Pods. Every time I see a commercial, I just want to scream. I was like, oh, look, bright red. Oh, look, blue. Why? So yeah, no, anything that there's going to be touching them, or they're going to be touching
or
or
smelling
ingesting or smelling or anything. Yes. Well, I mean, smells affect the brain dramatically. There are studies, actual scientific studies, that look at vetiver and cedarwood and the effects they have on ADHD children. And they can and with it, they calm the brains of ADHD children just by smelling them. So smells, you're right, they absolutely trigger.
Yeah, we tried that before we changed Cassidy's diet. We would do the roller bottle, or we would just have a diffuser in the room and put the vetiver in it. And it was like, oh, it's going to help. It's going to help. And until we changed her diet, it helped a little bit. I mean, it did help, but now it's like, she doesn't even need it. She can sit in a chair for 10 minutes and not move. And it's
That's
just,
awesome.
it's incredible. But she was starting to have those same school issues, and we were trying to figure out why. And it was that dang allergy medicine with Blue Lake 1 in it. And it's like, it is a swallow pill.
Yeah. So Lake is oil soluble. Red and yellow are called Azo Dyes. They're classified as Azo Dyes. What I found, and our experience with Azo Dyes, red and yellow, matched what researchers have been finding, in that they break down into metabolites, whereas green and blue stay whole and move through the body whole. So we have blue and green last about 12 hours to a day, whereas the red and yellow last more like 2 to 5 days. And it's because of the breakdown of metabolites. So yes, regular dyes are water soluble, and lakes are oil soluble. And when my kiddo was younger, he said to me that he feels stronger reactions on the lakes than he does the water soluble ones. So yeah. So that's interesting to know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, and I know
chemistry, it's not always.
And I know it feels overwhelming, because it literally does feel like it's everywhere, but you're not alone. And there's so many people who feel like they're alone in this. And I really want people to understand that there's a community of us, and I want to build up this community. And I don't see why, the keto carnivore space can't cross over here and we can get together on this issue, because it is still affecting us in these severe and negative ways. And I really want to bring awareness to it as much as possible, because the keto carnivore space is growing exponentially right now. And it's like, wait, there's so much more to this. And I want,
and you guys have an advantage, because you've already removed almost all of the dyes in your diet. You've already removed a lot of these offending chemicals that are found in the diets that are going to have a reaction. Now, all you need to do is take that one little extra step and look at the outside of your environment, where, like you said, the cleaning products, Windex has a clear, get the clear one. The soaps, they have clear ones, just find those. Fabric softeners, they have clear fabric or white. Okay. So, that kind of switch, looking at different mouthwashes, looking at different toothpaste. There's plenty of toothpastes out there that don't have color in them that are great. And so just taking that extra step to removing some of the known offenders can then add just that much more health and well-being to someone who is really starting from an awesome place. I mean, like, I talk to parents who are starting from ground zero and they have to go through their house and get rid of their cereals and the candies and all of that. And that is a much bigger, more overwhelming task. And at first it is. We've lived like this now for almost 10 years. It's not that difficult. It really isn't. And when he does get dosed, it blows through him a lot faster than it used to. But it just takes a little bit extra finding the movie theaters that have popcorn that don't have the dyes in them. And or whatever it is that we're looking at, just finding the products. Like I had to get my son deodorant. That's how I got on the deodorant rant. My husband buys his own deodorant. I don't look at his deodorant, and it didn't occur to me, mine's white. Why isn't everyone else's? So I finally was like, you want to use mine, bud, until we find you one? And so found one. But yeah, it's just that little extra step past where you're at. So everyone in that carnivore world is in so much better of a starting place for this.
And then we're already pretty uninflamed. And so if you cannot get, like, sometimes there's carnivores who they go get their tests done and their CRP is still higher than it should be. And it shows that there's inflammation somewhere in their body and they don't quite understand where. And it's like, well, what else are you eating or putting on your body or smelling that could be affecting you? If you are one of those hyper responders, who, you literally get Sharpie on your thumb because you touch the bag too fast, and there's your dose for the week.
And you're going through all this effort to get yourself in a very healthy place. Just go that little extra step. Replace the scented candles with a diffuser and find the oils that you love. They're actually in the long run cheaper than buying candles, and they're not a fire hazard.
And they have other health benefits too.
Oh yeah. So going back to that, after our kiddo was clean, he was still having a problem sleeping. He would kick the wall every night. I mean, there was heel marks in the wall from him kicking in the middle of the night. And he would spin and move around. So I put a Fitbit on him, and we found that he was waking up, but not aware, but he was waking up 12 to 15 times a night.
So night terrors without the screaming.
Something. Yeah. He was not sleeping well, and it was interrupting his REM sleep, and it's interrupting his deep sleep. So a friend of mine came over, and this is how I got introduced to oils. My friend came over and brought her diffuser and a couple different oils that had vetiver, cedarwood, lavender in them. And we tried them it took a month, but every night, well, I'd say every other night if we forgot. But we tried as much as possible. We just put it on and he would go to sleep. And it took about a little over 4 weeks. He was only waking up 3 or 4 times a night.
Huge improvement.
Yeah. Huge improvement. He wasn't thrashing anymore.
Quarter of the time.
Yeah. And so then we can go down to 3 or 4 times a week. And then he's down to, we don't use, he's 16. So if he doesn't run it, I will say his room smelled fantastic. So it's a bonus for having a teen boy, preteen boy. Just run that diffuser in there. Their room smells nice.
Pro parenting tip right there.
Yeah, totally. And they'll sleep better. So you let it run all night, and then it's nice during the day. But then we ended up doing mixes for his study. So we have a study mix that has peppermint, rosemary, and grapefruit in it. Mm-hmm. He's a gamer, so he's a gamer blend. So we have all these different blends now that he likes to use occasionally here and there for helping shift his mindset. So yeah, they absolutely help. And there's actual research out there. Do they cure cancer? No. However, there's other benefits that they provide. Lavender is wonderful for sleep and relaxation and reducing
bruises and all kinds of other stuff.
Right. And you can mix them up and use them for bug spray. I'm not sure if they would hold up to Wisconsin. I used to spend summers in Wisconsin, and
we make a bug spray with witch hazel and water, and I put some other, of course, like the all the typical ones, citronella and all of those. And I can't stand to get within 10 feet of the kid. So I'm pretty sure it works for the bugs too.
Okay,
So
awesome.
far,
Good.
it seems to be working when they remember to put it on.
If a bug spray works in Wisconsin, it'll work anywhere.
Oh my gosh, so potent. Yeah, especially when they do it to each other.
Yeah.
And they use like half a bottle. And I'm like, okay, guys, you're literally dripping. And they're like, but the bugs won't get me. Like, fair, have fun, go play.
True. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of benefits for that. You want a scented soap for your clothes or whatever, throw some lavender or whatever you like in there. Scent it yourself. Yeah, it's easy enough to do.
Yeah, it is. You have to be diligent. You have to be intentional about finding replacements for things and just give it a try. See how you do, see how your children do.
Yeah.
And all you have to do, and I remember this from your TED talk all that time ago, is if you go to the teacher, to the school, and you tell them that you're doing a little bit of an experiment and do not give your child anything with any artificial food dyes in it, that you didn't have any problems with the teachers complying with that, and you just say just for a week, or 2 weeks or whatever it is it's going to be. Anything like that, just let them know. And generally, if you say, oh, it's just a little experiment, when the teachers are like, oh yeah, I'm in on this. Okay. It's going to be awesome. They're more willing to cooperate.
Yeah. And teachers see it. Teachers are the ones that see just how hardcore these kids react to these dyes and the sugars. And so yeah, and it was great. My son was in a cohort group in school. So started out in 3rd grade and then 4th, 5th, 6th, or 4th and 5th. So elementary school, they all kind of went together, and they all watched the TED Talk live, so all the kids got a little education at that moment of their classmate. And from then on out, and they knew he couldn't eat dyes. So when parents would bring in cupcakes, there was always, they'd bring a white one. Even though we didn't expect it, they would make one for him. And we had special candies. And we have an agreement that if something happened at school and you didn't get a treat, that I will go get you something else. We'll do something afterwards. So he was okay with that. But it got to the point where they would come over and they would hand something on his desk and they would read it first. Like, you can have this. Oh yeah, you can't have this, but you can have this. And so the kids were protecting him and helping him. And they really respected that. So the kids didn't have a problem. And actually they were like, I'll eat this for you. Cause
so
you
helpful.
Have this. Yeah. But you can have this. And so I'll give you mine of this and I'll take this. And so, yeah, they were very, very helpful. But yeah, the kids were great and the teachers were great. The problems that I have found seems to be with family.
Yep.
Grandma not understanding. Hey, mom, we pulled him off Red 40.
Kool-Aid's still okay though, right?
Oh, red vines.
Yeah.
He ran in circles and ran in circles and ran in circles and passed out on the floor. I don't think I'll be giving him red vines anymore. Really? No. Thanks. Cool. I'm so glad he's staying at your house for a day. So yeah, thanks for that. But yeah, and that our family is really good. Our family is very supportive. My mom did the red vine thing, but after that was she brings them the best stuff that doesn't have dyes in it. My brother
it really was real. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened. It was before we pulled him off of everything. We'd only pull him off of red. And he was staying at her house for a few days. And I think, I come from a very scientific background family as well. I think it was just her way of doing a little experiment. And she came to the same conclusion that we did.
Yeah, those N=1 experiments are really, really powerful. And that's in our whole space over here, is that everyone can go, there might not be any studies about this and, carnivore, but when you've got 1,000 people saying the same thing, it makes it hard to ignore.
Right. And that's the same with dyes. We don't have enough research on this. So all we have is the anecdotal evidence. And if we have this over and over and over, there needs to be more research so that we can finally say, stop, please.
Stop. Yeah. Because they are literally poisoning people who do not know They have no choice because it's the only food that they're given. Or, if you go to a food bank, it's
School lunches.
the school lunches. Oh, don't even get me started on the school lunches. I used to volunteer to work in the cafeteria at a school lunch, and I was literally in tears between what the children bring and what is being served. And I'm like, okay, especially me, being me, keto carnivore, that was hard enough. But I'm looking and I'm like, everything is glowing. It's fluorescent. You should not be putting this into your body.
So school lunches, my kid, I got a note once from one of the teachers, or no, from the lunch room. And they're like, well, he has a balance due on his account. I'm like, well, that's funny because my child would not touch any of that food coming out of that place. Right? So not my kid. I'm sorry. I'll pay it for you. It's fine. It was like $6. I'll pay for whatever kid ate it, but I just want to let you know right now, my child will never eat that food there, period. And he brings food, and he started bringing food for his friends. I'm like, why are you packing so much? He wouldn't tell me for a little while. And then he was like, I'm giving it to my friends. I'm like, that's fine. Just tell me, we'll pack more.
Yeah, I'll buy more. That's fine.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there's a lot of cooperation all over the place. Doctors, pediatricians, we're lucky. We've had great pediatricians that listen to him and believe him. You're just going to come across it when you ask questions, and dentists, going to pediatric dentists. It's the little things outside of, we think artificial colors food, and it's just expanding that awareness to being outside a little bit more than that, and adjusting accordingly. So,
well, and if there's more and more and more and more of us coming into the dentist going, please don't use that stuff on my teeth. Does it have artificial dyes in it? And then not only have you educated the technician or the dentist themselves, but then they're hearing it over and over and over again. And that's what's, happening over in the keto area, is that enough people are seeing these major results with mental health, their cycles, fertility, of course, weight loss. I consider the weight loss to be a happy side effect.
Yes.
Yeah. Reversing type 2 diabetes, healing Hashimoto's, putting Hashimoto's into remission. I mean, those are the main players here. And so enough people are going to their doctor and saying, look, this is what I'm doing. This is what's working. We're bringing awareness to it. And I really want the artificial dyes and the artificial flavors to be brought into the spectrum as well. They need to be under attack.
Yeah. It's a piece of of health and wellness. It really is. And if somebody's working on their health and wellness, they should be covering all pieces. I mean, just the one piece is going to get you really far. I mean, getting off medications alone is worth all of it in, 10 times
all
over.
the weight you lost in gold.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's amazing. And feeling better and having that mental clarity, but taking it one step further and seeing, can it get better? Can I clean up other areas? And if you don't have a reaction to it, fine.
Fantastic. Then
right.
You keep going.
Lucky you. I wish nobody would react. I wish I didn't have to talk about this. I wish this wasn't an issue, but it's worth checking out. It's worth trying. Like you said, try for 30 days, 2 weeks to 30 days, 30 days. You'll know for sure. Yeah. Just anything for a month and give it a shot. And I mean, you might find a better toothpaste, the one that you like more, that just doesn't have dyes in it. You might find other things, other products, other cleaning products. I have found cleaning products that clean better than any of the other chemicals out there that are all natural. I mean, they are amazing.
And then they smell amazing because they've got essential oils in them, and they work.
My hands don't peel. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. At work, my husband's hands used to just bleed and peel. And he was like, it's the soap. I can't help it. I got to wash them 12 times a day. And actually, what's really crazy is we went and got CAC scans 2 months ago, because we wanted to show that even though we have very high cholesterol, because when you live in a ketogenic state, you have high cholesterol because that is your fuel's transport.
Right.
We both got CAC scans. I have a 0. He has a 1. And of course they recommended statins to him at a 1. And it was like, no, thank you. We're good with that. And then they diagnosed him with a fatty liver. Oh. And the thing is, keto and carnivore are both notorious for reversing a fatty liver within 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so what's going on? So I reached out to one of the instructors, one of the people that I'm learning from, and she said, "Is your husband a swimmer?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, there's a lot of even teenage athletic competitive swimmers who have fatty livers because of the chemicals in the pool."
Oh,
And I went, aha. I
yeah.
bet you it's he always complains about his hands and having to wash them. So it was like, I bet you it's all the chemicals that he's being exposed to while he is at work. And I brought that and she said, that's most likely. I mean, he is super clean carnivore.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we can talk to so many people who, oh, and I reversed my fatty liver. And I'm like, how on earth do you have a fatty liver? And I don't, I mean, we literally eat the same thing. Yes, genetics and whatnot, but it's all
Yeah.
those dang chemicals.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Yeah.
so there's just so much, but you know what? One step at a time.
Right.
I always say pick one area to start
Yes.
in. If you
Yes.
don't want to try keto carnivore, try just the artificial food dyes first.
Yeah. Sure.
Start with that. Start with the artificial dyes, which then kind of move over to artificial flavors. And then you can look at adjusting your diet a little bit at a time. Or you could be crazy like we tend to be and all at once. Okay, carnivore overnight. Let's do it. That's what I did. And then with you pulled your son off of all these artificial dyes overnight. Is there
Right.
detox? Yeah. Does it suck? Yeah. But is it better to not have a slowly poisoned child who cannot live with what's going on in his own brain and he's screaming for help? I mean, I had one of my own. He would tell me, I just want to die. And I didn't know then what I know now. And it's hard to not feel guilty.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Because it's like, but I have to believe that I discovered it when I did for a reason, because now I have a story that I can go out. You have a story and you still have a son and I still have a son.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I did the same thing. I beat myself up hardcore. I'm like, I've got a master's in child development. I should know better. I've got a PhD. I should know better. No, none of that prepares you for understanding everything. And we did the best we could. And if it wasn't for our experience, I wouldn't be able to share this with the TED Talk. When a friend of mine messaged me and said, "Hey, do you want to deliver a TED Talk?" I cried. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I have been wanting to do this because it's reaching a larger audience. I mean, I teach college courses, and so I get to talk to all my college students. But this was like, okay, this is an opportunity to reach more people, more parents, and help more kids. And if we saved one kid,
It's worth it.
It was worth it. And so, hearing us, the Mercy story about how we saved her, it was like that. Okay, that's my kid, right? That's the one that's worth it. Everyone else is just an absolute bonus. And I've heard from so many parents and so many people from all over the place. I've heard from people from around the world. And that's the benefit of it. And my kiddo isn't angry about it. He's like, this is just part of who I am. And this is something I've learned. We've met people. There's a company, Microma, that's working down. They're working on coming up with a natural alternative to artificial food colors that are made from fungi that are pH and temperature stable.
Oh, how cool.
Yes, because that's the problem right now is natural dyes aren't pH and temperature stable. And so these will be pH and temperature stable. And they're winning awards all over for the research that they're doing. And so I give it another year or two. And I think they're going to have it. And so my kiddo, it was like, well, great. I'll sell products for them. I'll work for them. I'll do whatever to help this. And they, because he wants to get into business. He wants to get into sales. And he goes, well, I'll be happy to share this and use his story. I was like, what a better way to help people and companies than to have a real story to tell. And so, he uses it. He doesn't hide it. We've done quite a few. We did an NPR interview, which was wonderful to do right before Halloween a couple of years ago. Like Halloween, we don't even go trick-or-treating.
Oh boy. Oh yeah, we don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we do not go trick-or-treating. We stay at home, or if we do, we do the trade. We'll trade with our kids. Okay, you give me all the junk candy. It goes right into the trash because I can't even donate it to anyone. I'm like, I can't even, no.
Oh no.
And then I will give them like Lily's chocolate chips.
Yeah.
Which I love their chocolate chips. They have a unicorn one that is colored with spirulina and beetroot.
Yep.
So I'm like, they're out there. These other alternative options are available. You just have to look.
Yes.
And so we don't, or we'll stay at home and watch like Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin.
Yeah.
And I'll still let the kids dress up, and we'll play and we'll have a fun movie night or something like that. But no, I'm right there with you. I'm like, Halloween.
Yeah, we decorate and scare people. So, and we buy candy that doesn't have dyes in it because I won't give any other child candy with dyes in it. So we have cool chocolates at our house that we hand out to kids, and we scare them. We set up stuff outside. So we have a different ritual. And so, yeah, Easter, we found ways to naturally dye eggs instead. And so we do other stuff. We change our rituals around what works in our family and what doesn't. So he's never missed out on anything. It's just been a little different. And so kids don't miss out. At first, they kind of are upset about some things they can't eat anymore. There's some things he wishes he can eat that he can't. But it's not worth it for him because he knows how he feels. And that's the other thing too. Once the kids are off of this, once you're off of this, you will do whatever you can to keep that wellness feeling, and you won't go and eat things. So yeah, when you send them off to grandma's and grandma wants to give them something, the ones that know go, oh no, I'm not eating that. I can't eat that.
Oh yeah, no. And that's me. That's why people have asked me, well, now that you've lost your weight, are you going to go back to eating normal? And I go, no, I'm free. Once you've been medicated on 6 different antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. And not to mention the birth control pills, the hormones, you name it. I was on so many different things. And while I was medicated, I was suppressed. Just like, the kids on the ADHD meds, they were suppressed. That's why they were able to function. Now that I am free, I will never, ever, ever go back to that. I don't want to. Do I miss? I told my kids, I said, here's the deal. If I find out I'm going to die in 15 minutes, I want a Starbucks and a Krispy Kreme donut. Because do I miss it? Yes, of course I miss it.
Sure.
But what I have gained is so much more than missing some sugary tastes on my tongue.
Yeah.
And so that I am so in agreement with that. It's like, once you're free and once you know the difference, you don't want to go back. You never want to be trapped again in that box.
And kids know this.
Yes.
Kids get it. One of my students, her son went off dyes, and they were out somewhere getting pancakes. And he put one of the strawberry syrup on there and ate it, and then was like, wait, does this have dyes? And she's like, oh my God, it might. He's like, how could you let me eat this? Like, he was so upset that he ate that. And so they get it. They get it.
They really do. They can feel the difference. And Cassidy, she'd start crying, and she's like, my brain. She was like, I can feel it. It's clogged up.
Oh. And the way the kids communicate are very different. And so you got to really listen. So clogged up, what does that mean? It means brain fog, right? The brain buzzing, what does that mean? And it's that high frequency, just the tinnitus kind of ringing, the cloudiness, the inability to focus and concentrate. You just got to listen to the language that they use. They're not,
you got to interpret.
Yeah. They're not always going to be able to say, hey, when, kids, I want to die. It doesn't mean I don't want to be here anymore. It's, I don't want to feel this way anymore, but they don't know there's another way to feel. They just know that the way they feel right now is awful, and they don't want to continue feeling that way. So they don't have a comparison. Like adults, we eat something and go, oh my God, I don't feel good. I'm never going to eat that again. And because I don't want to feel like this, because I know I can feel different. kids don't know they can feel different. And so their perception is different. And we don't understand their language sometimes. And so we need to listen to what they're saying and help kind of break it down a little bit so it makes more sense on their level, their perception. You know, what does it mean to them to have a buzzing brain?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to them for my brain's clogged up? I love that. I'm going to use that next time.
Yeah, my brain's
clogged up.
And it's like, oh my God. As soon as she said that, I went, oh, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is genius.
Yeah, right. Right. They do. They come up with the best ways of describing things very viscerally and very organically. And we don't catch it, especially if we're busy. We're not going to catch what they're saying. And so it just takes listening a minute and being there for them and being an advocate and not beating yourself up when you realize, crap, I've been poisoning my child without even realizing it. Don't beat yourself up.
No.
It's easy to do.
Been there.
Yeah.
Done that on both cases right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, this has been an amazing conversation. I hope people have lasted through it with us because I have a feeling we could probably keep going for a while, and we will definitely have to do this again.
Sure.
And please let everyone know where they can find you if they have any questions. I will link everything that you send me down below in the description so that they can look at all of the research and the documents and the papers that you have to send. But if anyone wants to get in contact with you, what is the best way to do that?
Probably email, and I will give you my email address too, and they can just email me. And that's a great way. I also have a Facebook page, which I will send you the link to because sometimes I don't remember the name. And I also have a website that I have that has our story on there, and it has all the research that I could find, or most of the research that I can find that are links to, or actual articles, published articles, that are on there. And then, so I'll give you a couple other links too. And, people can message me through our Facebook page, or email me, whatever. I'm always happy to talk with parents that want to talk, and share their stories and ask questions. So I have become an advocate in this just because, again, I don't want any parent being me, and I don't want any kid being my kiddo. And if I can help any other kids to not suffer like that for as long as mine did, I'm down. So
then you've done your job.
It brings me joy to help that. And so, yeah, so I will I'll get you links, and yeah, and hopefully people can try it out. And I love also hearing stories of, oh my God, this worked. I write them all down. I just keep track of how many people it's helping, just because when I have to go and talk to legislators, and when I have to go and talk to researchers and doctors and scientists, all we have right now is anecdotal evidence. And so as that piles up,
it helps.
It does.
Do this experiment just to be able to support the cause of getting more and more and more results, so that we can say, no, seriously, stop poisoning us. Stop poisoning our children.
Yeah, right. And let's get this out of our food source, just like they have it out of theirs in other countries. There's 13, 14 other countries that banned artificial colors from their products. And we should be one of them too. We really, really should. And I know that the big industrial complexes are running the show, and I think that voices need to be heard. So become an advocate. Yeah.
And we vote with our dollars when we get the stuff that doesn't have artificial dyes in it. It's one more tick in that box for, what are we getting away from?
Yes. Companies are starting to switch. Companies are offering, Benadryl offers a dye-free option in their capsules, which is huge.
Yeah. Instead of that bright pink capsule now.
Right. My kid's allergic to cats. Sometimes if he gets around a cat, we need some Benadryl. Now we have one that we can use.
And not just the children's guzzle it,
Right. Right. All sorts of different medications. Buy the dye-free ones. As those sell, companies see that. companies understand that, and companies shift. We do mass amounts of good and change with our dollars.
Vote with your dollars.
Yeah. So thank you. Thanks for letting me share this, and thanks for incorporating me into your tribe. I appreciate it.